we're going to start out, since we are Georgia boys and they are the reigning SEC champ, we're going to start out with UGA. Tell me your thoughts on it.
Well, I think the biggest question mark for Georgia this year is going to be their defense.
Right.
They're replacing a lot. They're replacing a lot of leadership, too, with Roquan. You don't really, I mean, you're not really going to replace somebody like Roquan. You're just going to have somebody step up.
Well, Roquan Smith now, to me, he's one of the 5 best linebackers, especially, let's say, inside linebackers. He's one of the 5 best inside linebackers I've ever seen play college football.
I'm right there with you. He was special.
Really good.
It's going to be really, really tough to replace him. And I think I read in Phil Steele where they lost 50%. They graduated 50% of their tackles last year, or not
well,
what's left the team.
You take
that's
Roquan Smith, that's probably 35-40% of them right there.
That's true. That's true. What you thinking about them?
Well, I'm high on Georgia. I feel like they're recruiting well, which is, that's 90% of the battle. So they're bringing in top tier talent. One thing I want to touch on is a lot of the people that I've heard doubt Georgia. It's been because of the 2 running backs that they've lost. I don't know if you would call this a
Chubb and Michelle.
Yes.
It's gonna be tough replacing Chubb and Michelle. That's 4 years of leadership, and the yards them 2 guys put up. It's gonna be hard to replace them.
So this may be a bold prediction that I don't think that the level of play at running back will drop off at all this year. I think Georgia will get just as much production from their backfield. I know you're looking at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah, I don't see that.
I think that Swift is more talented than Michelle or Chubb. That's what I believe. Now, Chubb pre-injury, you could argue, but
Chubb of last year.
Chubb of last year and Michelle, as a NFL prospect, as a game-changing type player, to me, Swift is better than either one of them. And I'll also tell you this, he may not even be the best running back on the team.
That's true.
They got that man, Zamir White?
I think it is Zamir White.
Zeus, I know they call him Zeus.
Can't forget old Dalvin's brother either. Well, you got James Cook. You got 2 freshmen.
So what's important there is, I don't think Cook is the player that White is, but they feed off each other.
Miami the way he did?
No, I'm not saying he's not good.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Oh, I think he's elite.
Yeah.
But I'm saying he is a third down type back. Now, I'm not saying he can't be an every down back, but I believe he can be a third down back immediately. I think he can kind of play the role that Swift played last year. You saw Swift a lot on catching the ball out of the backfield, that kind of stuff, running jets. I could see James Cook, if he's eligible, doing something like that. But Zeus, Zamir White is a killer. I mean, he's Gurley type player.
I'm really high on him. But right now, you're telling me, you're looking at Georgia's running backs from last year going into the season, and you're looking at them from this year, and you're telling me you're going to take, if you had to choose who would be your running back core, you would take this year's over last year's? Michelle and Chubb?
What I'm saying is the production will be.
So you will, right? So that's what you're saying. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong.
Well,
that's
this is they're more talented. Last year you had 2 experienced backs and a young Swift. Okay. Mm-hmm. This year you got Swift, and Holyfield's not bad either.
No, Holyfield's not a bad back either.
And then you got those young guys that are so. There may not be early because it's going to take some time for them guys to learn the offense. But from a talent standpoint, I'll take 2018 UGA backs over 2017. And just because it hadn't happened doesn't mean it's not going to happen.
I'm not saying you're wrong because I've watched the film on these guys. What Cook was doing in South Florida, that normally translates. What I saw Zeus do, Zamir White, he's a monster. So I'm not knocking you. It's hard to replace Chubb and Michelle. That's two studs.
It is.
And the mental I think. Now I agree with you. I agree with you, talent-wise, especially after Chubb's knee injury. He lost a step, and I agree these guys probably have more talent, but it's going to be.
Well, here's what we don't know.
What
Michelle and Chubb were great people.
Exactly, they were strong.
So that's what we don't know. I don't know that, but I do know. I feel like what I'm seeing on film, from a talent standpoint, they're more talented. They may not have the character.
Right.
I don't see any but
no
I'm not going to say they
character.
don't have
right.
that
no
until they show me they don't have it. Right. All I'm looking at now is just instinct, explosion.
All right, let's get into the next big Georgia debate: Justin Fields and Jake Fromm. Now, personally, Jake Fromm led them to as close as you're going to get to a national championship as a true freshman.
Right.
When they needed to play all year long, you don't get to that place unless you've got a quarterback that steps up and makes the play.
Here's the situation. I'm going to address this from like a coach's point of view. It's the best problem to have, and it's the worst problem to have at the same time. Because you've got a proven commodity, a kid that's got grit, he's got fight in him. He's a winner, but
he won the SEC as a true freshman.
He's also got a big arm. It's not like he's a game manager.
Mm-mm.
He's a player.
Exactly.
But
he can go out and win a game for you.
He can. And he's not as talented as Justin Fields. So here's our. The good thing is you got two great players. That's obvious. If somebody gets hurt, you got somebody. Which I think right now,
which Georgia wouldn't have made it where they went last year if they didn't have a guy backing up the starter.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Here's the problem. Let's say Easton doesn't get hurt last year and he sticks around and Georgia goes 9-3 and Fromm would have stayed. He's a diehard UGA fan growing up. He's going to think, I'll battle him out again. I don't think Fields is going to do that. This is the conundrum the coaches are in. Justin Fields is a pro. He's got first round ability. Now, look, I get it. He has not done it on the big stage. I understand that. He's tall. He's athletic. He's got a cannon. He's smart. So here's the thing. Fromm's a little short. And what I mean by that is, this is why this is important. It's not likely for him to leave after his junior year. Which would mean if Fromm is the starter and he doesn't get hurt, Fields could be could have to sit for 3 years.
Yeah, he's not sitting.
He's not going to do that.
It's not going to happen. It reminds me of the Major Applewhite Chris Sims. Major Applewhite in Texas won the conference. Major Applewhite was a gamer, but he was short. He don't have the arm that Fromm had.
Fromm's more talented than Applewhite, but Applewhite was everything else.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
And Chris Sims was the top quarterback coming in.
Right.
I mean, big 6'5". He was a good NFL quarterback too. You could see he had the talents, obvious.
Right. He's not. I don't think
the team rallied around.
Right, and that could happen.
Yeah, the team. It was Major Applewhite's team. How would you handle it? I mean, you're not at practice.
I would play the best player.
Yeah.
Now, all things even, I'm going to go with the proven commodity. But if when the coaches are evaluating it at practice, and one man is the best player, because here's the thing, the coaches are going to know who's best, but you know who else is going to know who's the best? The players.
Yeah.
So the players are going to rally around if they both have heart. So we know Fromm's got heart.
And like we said, there's no reason to doubt anything.
There's no reason to doubt that Fields. But I'm just saying we know Fromm's got it. So unless Fields is a jerk or he's selfish. Now, If he's like that, they're going to rally to Fromm no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's also that kind of guy, the players are going to want the best guy on the field.
All right, so what you got Georgia going this year?
I got Georgia going 11-1, but I've got them not playing for not going to the SEC championship game.
So you got them 11-1 and not going to Atlanta.
Right. I've got South Carolina beating them early.
Well, we was looking at South Carolina's schedule earlier, and it's a good schedule for them to.
Yeah, I mean that. Now
they get Texas A&M and maybe
Arkansas or something.
So another team from the West they should beat.
Right. So they've got a much easier schedule than Georgia. Georgia gets LSU and Auburn from the West. Now, listen, I've got them because I think South Carolina's pretty good. I think they're going to play really good defense. They've got a couple playmakers on offense. That receiver they got is one of the best players in the SEC.
Is it Debo?
Debo Samuels or something like that.
Yeah.
And old Boone Muschamp, he's got it in him to upset
They're
somebody.
going to play good defense. Georgia, we talked about what Georgia's replacing. They're replacing a lot, 50% of their tackles. They're replacing those running backs, but I think the running backs they're replacing with are great. I've got Georgia winning that game, but it's a tough one. I mean, it's one they could easily drop.
So what do you have their record at?
I got Georgia 11-1. I got them losing to LSU on the road.
Yeah, that'll probably be a night game, and it's always tough to get a win in Baton Rouge.
And just looking at Georgia's schedule, I feel like they've got USC circled. That's a game they got to be up for. After what Auburn did to Georgia last year, I think Georgia will be ready for that game.
Listen, I mean, we both got them at 11-1.
We're both really high.
Coming out of the SEC, that's not and playing their crossover games been LSU and Auburn. So we're both high on them. What I see happening is something similar to what happened with Alabama. It actually could be a blessing in disguise for Georgia. If they lose to South Carolina and then run the table, and if I was them, I would pull for South Carolina to win.
Oh, to what?
Because then, if they go to play Alabama,
that's a playoff game.
That's an elimination game.
Right. That's what I've got down. Alabama, Georgia, SEC championship and the winners moving on.
Right.
It's a playoff game.
If it goes the way I see it, then I could easily see Georgia and Alabama back in the playoffs, which we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but that's kind of how I see it happening.
Yeah, I mean, and Georgia plays a good enough schedule that they can lose a game and they're still going to get a lot of benefit of the doubt because they play some good teams.